customer support. For example, answering frequently asked questions or gathering information before handing it off to a human customer service representative. You also find them in reservation systems. For example, it enables users to book cinema tickets or flight tickets, maybe even restaurant tables. We find bots in digital assistants. For example, an in-home or a phone-based virtual assistant that can perform tasks based on certain instructions. We can find them in online ordering as well. For example, when you order takeout food or for delivery or products from an online retailer, you're going to be able to sometimes encounter bots. And sometimes we also find healthcare bots. These healthcare bots can provide an automated diagnosis based on symptoms. And we find bots that help us to improve our office productivity, to find relevant corporate resources for a task. So why do we need to use bots? Humans are obviously much better at understanding nuanced, difficult questions. So they should be freed up to tackle more value-adding queries and doubts, not the usual frequently asked questions like, what time are you open? Or how much is product X? Where are you located? Humans waste a lot of time answering these simple questions when they could easily be found elsewhere. The example shown on the right side of the screen is a chat interface, such as one you might find on a website. But bots can be designed to work across multiple channels, as I mentioned. Regardless of the channel that these bots are deployed, bots typically manage conversational flows using a combination of NLP and constrained option responses that guide the user to a resolution. These conversations usually take the form of a message exchange in turns. And one of the most common kinds of conversational exchange is a question followed by an answer. This pattern forms the basis for many user support bots and can often be based on existing FAQ documentation. So to implement this kind of a solution, you would need to build a knowledge base of question and answer pairs, usually with some built-in natural language processing model to enable the questions to be phrased in multiple ways. Because these questions all mean the same thing and are going to require the same answer. So essentially, a bot service provides an interface to this knowledge base through one or more channels to be able to find that answer for the user. Azure's off-the-shelf services can help you to develop solutions and go to market and be more agile to reach your customers without having to reinvent the wheel and build a language model from scratch. The services you see on the screen are available on Azure and will allow you to start building and deploying your own NLP solutions immediately. They fall into the categories that we just discussed. Let's look at a few of them and see a demo of how we can analyze a piece of text using the language service towards the end of the module. On to lesson 2, the final lesson for today. We're going to look at how to build natural language solutions in Azure. Now let's look at some NLP solutions that are ready to use off the shelf. We start with text analytics. Text analytics is a capability in language service that is used to analyze input text documents. When we read a sentence, we are looking out for several things like what are the key phrases in the text? What are perhaps some names and references? Is there some emotion being expressed by the text? Those are all things that humans notice very well. Our challenge now is to get AI to try and do the same thing. And it is very complicated to program it from scratch. So being able to use them off the shelf greatly simplifies your development process. If you're trying to create something new for your marketing, for your document analysis, maybe your social media management, or any other purpose that you can think of that you might be using it for. Suppose you can use text analytics to analyze the text on the screen. I had a wonderful vacation in France. Generally quite positive, but let's see how it would get analyzed. So the first thing that will be analyzed is the language. The service determines the language that the text is written in. So it has high confidence that it is written in English. Next, we are able to get the sentiment of the text. In this case, it was largely positive, 88% positivity. So in a scale of 0 to 1, it would fall at 0.88. Next, we also find key phrases, and the key phrase here is wonderful vacation. And finally, you can pick up entities in the statement. And the entities here are France. This is a very simple example. But imagine if you had to analyze Twitter for mentions of your brand or your company, and you have several thousand comments to analyze. A service like this would greatly speed up the process and help you to analyze your data and harvest the information in a much quicker manner to draw any insight that you need to take future action. The next service we're going to be looking at is speech recognition and synthesis. This is concerned with vocal commands and spoken responses. Recognition refers to the ability to recognize, detect, interpret spoken input. And synthesis is the ability to generate spoken input, to form sentences rather. So think smart speakers, AI assistants that recognize when you ask them to turn off the lights, or they recognize when you ask them to play a song by speaking to them, and they can also synthesize appropriate responses to you. Like when they do find the song, or when they cannot find the song, they apologize to you. The speech service provides a speech-to-text API to perform real-time or batch transcription of audio into text. This service supports text transcription in more than 60 languages. Conversely, the text-to-speech API can synthesize audible speech from text, with the option to specify regionally appropriate voices for human-like pronunciation. When you use the text-to-speech API, you can specify the voice to be used to vocalize the text. This capability offers you the flexibility to personalize your speech synthesis solution and give it a specific character. The service includes multiple predefined voices with support for many languages and regional pronunciation, including standard voices as well as neural voices that leverage neural networks to overcome common limitation in speech synthesis regarding intonation, resulting in a more natural sounding voice. You can also develop custom voices and use them with the text-to-speech API. As organizations and individuals increasingly start to collaborate with people from other cultures, we need to remove language barriers because it has become a significant blocker. And one solution is to find bilingual or even multilingual people to translate between languages. However, that kind of a skill is quite a scarcity. And the number of possible language combinations can make this approach difficult to scale. And increasingly, automated translation, sometimes known as machine translation, is being employed to solve this problem. Decades ago, if you used any of these translation services, you may have noticed how the translation was often literal, sometimes word for word, which can lead to some embarrassing and funny situations. With advancements in the field of AI, semantic context has allowed the service to return a more accurate translation of the input phrase or phrases. The grammar rules, formal versus informal, and colloquialisms all need to be considered when you're talking about language. For example, in English, we say, I kicked ball. And in my mother tongue of Tamil, the order is slightly different. It would be arranged I, ball, kick. So slightly different. And the translated text service enables you to translate text between more than 60 languages. You can also translate audible speech by using the speech service, which can produce translated output in text or audio format. It can also output both speech and text from the input speech. The language understanding service enables you to train a language model that can interpret natural language commands. As artificial intelligence gets smarter, interactions with applications and digital assistants are becoming more commonplace. And in specific scenarios, can result in human-like interactions with AI agents. Common scenarios for this kind of solution include customer support applications, reservation systems, and home automation, amongst others. To enable these kinds of conversational solution, computers need to be able to accept language as input either in text or audio format, while also being able to interpret the semantic meaning of the input and understand what is being said. On Microsoft Azure, language understanding is supported through the Language Understanding Service. To work with the Language Understanding Service, you need to consider 3 core concepts, and you will need to know them for the examination. First are utterances. Utterances are phrases that a user might say or type. For example, switch the light on. That's an utterance. Entities. Entities are specific items that are referenced in an utterance. For example, a language model for a home automation application might recognize household devices such as a light or a fan. And finally, intent. Intent identifies the desired action or the goal of an utterance. And in this example, it is to switch the light on, to switch something on. Common scenarios for this kind of solution include automated phone banking and smart homes. And then we come to question answering. This cognitive service enables you to create and publish a knowledge base that is a question and answer bank, usually with some built-in natural language processing model that enables questions to be phrased in multiple ways to be understood with the same semantic meaning. You can use the Q&A Maker portal to create this knowledge base that consists of these question and answer pairs. These questions and answers can either be entered and edited manually, or they can be generated from an existing FAQ document or web page, or they can be imported from a predefined chit-chat data source. And in many cases, a knowledge base is created using a combination of all of these techniques, extending the knowledge base with additional manual entries. Questions in the knowledge base can be assigned alternative phrasing to help consolidate questions with the same meaning. For example, you might include a question like, how can I visit your head office? And you can anticipate by adding an alternative phrasing such as, where is your head office? Different words, same meaning, same question. After creating a set of question and answer pairs, you must train your knowledge base. This process analyzes your literal questions and answers and applies a built-in natural language processing model to match appropriate answers to questions, even when they're not phrased exactly as specified in your question definitions. After this training, you can use the built-in test interface in the Q&A Maker portal to test your knowledge base by submitting questions and reviewing if the right answers are being returned. And you can go ahead and publish it so that the client applications can use it. That is the Q&A Maker. And then we have conversational AI solutions that focus on interactions between human users and AI agents. And these are called bots, which brings us to the Azure Bot Service. There are several ways where we can deliver a conversational AI solution. It could be using a client application or a bot. By encouraging our users to interact with the AI agent, we free up our human agents to do more value-adding network. And a bot developer can use several tools to develop and build a bot, including using Power Virtual Agents, Bot Framework Composer, or Bot Framework SDK. This bot then gets integrated with the Azure Bot Service and the Azure Cognitive Services in the cloud. So the bot can make use of capabilities such as question answering and get published. A bot is an application with a conversational interface, so they could be deployed on a whole host of deployment channels, such as a web chat, an email, Microsoft Teams, and others. With that, we come to the end of Module 4. But before that, let's jump into the Azure portal one last time to see a language service demo, shall we? So once again, we shall go into the Azure portal to create another service. This time we're going to be doing some analysis of language. And for that, there's another special service. It is the language service. So let's go ahead and select that. Language service, again, is a standalone service, not like the general cognitive services which can be used for all services. I'm going to create this. And when you're selecting the language service, you can select additional features. So if you were building a bot, for example, you would select the custom question answering. Or if you had some specific niche requirements, you might require custom text classification and name entity recognition. But this time we're just doing very straightforward analysis, so these default features are sufficient. So I'm not going to select either of these. I'm going to go ahead to continue to create my resource. So again, I'm selecting my own subscription, and for resource group, I'm going to use the one that we've been using for this entire demo session. And I'm going to deploy it in the East US region. I'm going to give it a name, language service AI 900 demo. Make it nice and easy to recognize in the future. For the pricing tier, I'm going to select free since it's available. And of course, you need to accept the responsible AI notice. I'm going to accept this, and we can go ahead and review and create this service. Simple as that. So when you click review and create, it will validate that you are allowed to create this resource and all the configuration is proper. And go ahead and click create. Our deployment is now complete, and we can go ahead and use this resource. Let's go ahead and consume this language resource. And once again, we're going to do the same thing that we did in the previous demos. We're going to go and find the keys and endpoint. This is how you're going to be able to access and use this resource. And let's jump into our Cloud Shell again to modify this code and this script. I'm going to jump into my code editor and modify this code. And this time we are using the analyze text script. It's again inside there, analyze text. And we need to replace the key and the endpoint. Nice and easy. So you can use either key, it's perfectly fine. I can use key 2. It'll give me the same results as key 1. And replace my endpoint as well. And that's it. We are ready to go. So let me go ahead and save this and close the editor. So there's some text that I'm analyzing. I mentioned that it's a review that I'm analyzing. So let's pull up that review so that you can see it side by side. So on the right, you see the review text that's going to be sent to this language service. I'm going to expand my Cloud Shell a little bit more because there's going to be a bit of information that we're going to get. And the review says it's a good hotel and staff, the Royal Hotel, clean rooms, good service, great location near Buckingham Palace and Westminster Abbey, and so on. Generally a very positive review. So if we feed this into our language service, let's see what we find out. When we analyze text.ps1, so this is the script that we're going to be consuming, and this is the review that we want to analyze, review1.txt. All of this is inside the folder in our Cloud Shell. So when I hit enter, it's going to do a couple of things. So first you see it detects language, it finds key phrases, it analyzes sentiment, and it found known entities. Let's go up and read all of this stuff. And just to highlight, you don't have to do this inside Cloud Shell. You could do it from an application that you're building. You could do it from your own computer, a web application. There's many ways to consume this service. I'm just doing it in the Cloud Shell. So first, it found that it detected the language. So it has a 99% confidence score that this is an English review. So yeah, I think that's pretty accurate. And then it found key phrases throughout the entire review. So things like the Royal Hotel, Buckingham Palace, Westminster Abbey, Michelin star, anything that a human reading this, their attention may be attracted towards those things, the AI also picked up. So it dropped out words like we and went and to, so on. Those are kind of unnecessary words. They don't really add that value. They're just for the purpose of grammar. And then we have the sentiment of this review. So its sentiment is a positive sentiment based on these scores. So 98% positive, 1% neutral, and 1% negative. And it identified known entities. So the entities that it recognized are good music, hotel, Royal Hotel. So if you're doing some research, this would be a very useful way to go about doing that. Now let's go ahead and feed another review to this script. So this is another review, also of the same Royal Hotel, but this time not so positive. So it says tired hotel with poor service, the Royal Hotel, London. This is an old hotel and the furnishings are average, becoming a bit old now and require changing. So let's feed this review into our script and see what happens. I'm just going to modify the previous command that I did. So I'm going to send it to analyze text.ps1 review 2 and hit enter. It's going to do the same couple of things: detecting language, finding key phrases, sentiment, and identifying known entities. So a little different this time. Let's go up and go through this again. So again, it detected the language, and this time it's 100% certain that it is English indeed. And they found key phrases, again, Royal Hotel, tired hotel, old hotel. So all generally negative things that it picked up, and some entities that it recognized. And then it analyzed the sentiment, and this time we have a very different sentiment. It's a negative sentiment based on these scores: 1% positive, 7% neutral, and 92% negative. And this would be quite accurate. This is the same feeling that I would get if I was reading it. And the known entities have also been given Wikipedia links for you to do some research on. And this is how you will be able to use this service. And you can imagine using this for many other applications. For this example, if you said a human could read it and understand it, I agree with you. But imagine if you were trying to understand the sentiment or that the world was thinking about your company, and you had to go to Twitter and you picked up 1 million comments. And could we sit down and really go through one by one all of those and figure out whether it's a positive or negative sentiment? So applications like that, the language service can really come in handy to help carry out this job. So often it is used in marketing, it's used in analysis of sentiments. And so let's go back into our portal and wrap up this module. As you can see, the language service is a very useful tool with a lot of potential for building applications. So go ahead and try to build something yourself to see how easy it truly is. And that is a wrap for Module 4. In Lesson 1, we got introduced to the concept of natural language processing, and we had a short discussion about NLP and conversational AI. Following that, in Lesson 2, we saw several NLP solutions inside of Azure, such as text analysis, speech recognition and synthesis, translation, and Azure bot service. Which brings us to the end of today's session. I would like to thank you for attending this session. Artificial intelligence is a huge topic, and today's session is just the first step in this long journey. I hope you found this session useful and have a greater appreciation for AI. And since you've stuck with me through to the end of this session, I highly recommend signing up for the AI 900 examination. The questions are going to come from the same great content that we've covered across these 4 modules. And since it is a fundamentals course, you only really need to focus on identifying and describing the different AI components inside of Azure. I highly recommend that you check out aka.ms/AzureLearn_AI fundamentals to revise the content that I've covered in today's session. I wish you all the very best as you prepare for the AI 900 examinations. I think that's pretty much everything that you need to know while preparing for the examination. Again, review any areas that you might be unsure about with the learning path at aka.ms/AzureLearn_AI fundamentals. And make sure that you share that shiny new badge on LinkedIn once you pass your exams. Once again, thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule to join us for this session. Good luck with your exam, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. And hopefully we'll be celebrating a new badge or see you in another class really soon. Bye everyone.